Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast to the protection against heavy rain and flooding by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
So the big challenge is, how can house owners like you and me get a flood-free home? How can business managers like you and me get a flood-free company? And how can public servants provide flood-free critical infrastructure and livable cities?
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe. This podcast is for foresighted and proactive people who do not want to shovel the muddy water out of their room while standing in the midst of the disaster.
Therefore, those who design and plan, the architects and engineers, need to construct such buildings and cities, and that even when the entire environment is completely flooded. That is a challenge, and this podcast will give the answers.
Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe.
Hello, today we talk about negative things. We talk about negative water pressure. What is it? Yeah, you might ask what water pressure can do, and I always remind us, you of course, and myself, when we were young. Imagine when you were young and you learned swimming and you went to the swimming pool with your parents, or perhaps to the sea or to a river, what is of course more dangerous to learn swimming. It's not a good idea to go to the river, but let's stay in a swimming pool. And then you were swimming a little bit, and then you started perhaps to dive. I was crazy about diving. I really wanted to go deep, and my father was throwing some coins into the swimming pool that I can get them out, and that was of course already my French fries or my ice cream. So I was very encouraged and motivated to dive deeply. And the more I went down, the more the water pressure was hurting my ears, and I understood immediately what water pressure means. So water pressure is really terrible. So I think you can remember, perhaps you still feel the pain in your ears. And water pressure only depends on the height of the water, not on the length. So quite often people tell me when we invite them to our Asian Center for Flood Protection in Clark in the Philippines, just a little bit north of Manila at the International Airport of Clark. And they watch our mock-up, and they watch our hydrostatic testing area, where our rubber duck is swimming on top of the water when we filled the water basin. And they said, but in reality, there's more water and the pressure is higher. And we always said, no. If the water would be higher if you have a wider swimming pool, that would mean that the water pressure in your bathtub at home, the water pressure in the swimming pool, and the water pressure at the ocean, at the beach, is different. Have you ever realized that the water pressure in the ocean is much higher than it is in the swimming pool in your town where you live? Of course not. It's the same water pressure. It only depends on the height of the water column, we say. In physics, perhaps some people remember. So that is water pressure. And I always say water pressure is as dangerous as termites are. Water always finds a way in. Like termites, they always find the way in. Or ants, very small, tiny ants. But termites are more dangerous and difficult. So, but that's not the topic. We talk about negative water pressure today. And yes, sometimes flood barriers are to be installed on the wrong side of an entrance. And it may be that disruptive elements such as sliding gates or mosquito doors do not allow installation on the front side, outside, or we call it the water side, because that is where the heavy rain, the floods are coming from. And let's talk about the influence of right or wrong side of a door. on the investment price of flood protection barriers. And what needs to be considered during the construction of floodgates, flood barriers? So just recently, just today, I got an inquiry, and that came from Vietnam, and in the middle of Vietnam, and the customer wants to protect the kind of, it's a small building, it's a kind of hut, it's a kind of small pumping station. So it's only the size is similar to a garage. Let's say it this way. So you have 3 walls, you have a roof on top. It's an open construction that the wind can circulate, so it's pretty good. And there's a door in front, and the pumps inside with necessary electricity. So I know they want to protect and there's a window, but the window is elevated. I think it starts at 1.5 meters or something like that. So the customer wants to protect the entrance. So that is the width is about, I think, 1.80 meter or something. It's a double swing door, so it's 1.80 meter is the opening width, and the height is 1.20 meter. So 1.20 meter, pretty good. I'm 1.20 meter is a little bit higher than an office table, huh? And And then when I saw the drawing, I immediately saw they want to install the flood barriers at the inner side. Why? Because outside they have a double leaf swing door. And of course, if you have the barriers, you cannot get into if you have the barriers installed from outside, they will block the swinging doors because they swing to the outer side. Okay, you might ask, why somebody will go inside this pumping station when the flood barriers are installed? That means there is heavy rain. Yes and no. It can be that you install the barriers prior to the bad rain or prior to the rainy season. You know already storms are coming, bad weather is coming for several weeks, and you want to keep the flood barriers installed. That means, and then it can be that there is a service need, a requirement that somebody must get inside the pumping station and must do some repairs, whatever it is. It can be. And then, of course, you cannot enter anymore because you cannot open the doors. So it's not a good idea. And there's no other opening. The window, there are some grids in front for safety reasons. I think you cannot get inside. So that's not a good idea. So what will you do? You install the flood barriers at the inner side. That is possible. But now remember the water pressure, because the water is now pushing against the flood barriers. And you can imagine if you install the flood barriers outside the building, flat at the wall, that's good. You can press and press and press and nothing will happen because these flood barriers are very sturdy, 67 millimeters thick, marine grade aluminium with a huge thickness of aluminum, and they will not damage. I always say these flood barriers are still there when the rest of the building is gone already, as long as the wall is still standing. So last man standing, last barrier standing. That fits. And so because the wall is getting all the force of the water pressure. And if you now change the construction and you install the flood barriers at the inner side, what will happen? The driving force, so the water is pressing against the barriers, and the only force that keeps the barriers in position are the dowels at their side channels from the inner side. But it's the wrong side. That means sooner or later it can be that the force of the water pressure is higher than the dowels inside your concrete. And you don't know what quality your concrete has, and perhaps it was not well done, or you have hollow block stones. What is terrible for construction, because there is something hollow inside. The name tells you. So what is the solution? You need an additional metal sheet in kind of L shape at the bottom of the side channels at the left and right side of these flood barriers. Now, and I said the opening was 1 meter 80, so you can install them in one piece. You do not need to split the flood barriers, these demountable flood barriers, and but you need a side channel at the left and at the right side installed from inside the building, inside the room, with an additional metal sheet at the bottom. You might say, okay, this piece of metal sheet, it's not a big deal. Oh, it is. Because you have to consider several things. You need first to weld it to the side channel. So it is not a standard piece anymore, what you can take out of the shelf and out of stock and out of your stock, and then you deliver it. So the manufacturing time is longer. Then you have to bring it to the galvanization shop for hot dip galvanization, that it is not rusting later on. So these are additional steps you have to undergo, and but that is not all, because I told you you have to attach this metal sheet L shape at the bottom to your ground, to the foundation, to take the force of the pushing water from outside, and that requires drilling. So the first question is, how deep is your concrete foundation, and what kind of that is good. There was a phone call coming now while I'm recording, and I forgot to mute my phone. I should not do that. So that is, by the way, a lesson what is very important for every meeting. But today I really forgot it. I'm sorry for that. So the depth of the concrete is very important, and then you need special dowels, and you do not take these junior screws M6 or M5, M6, what you use at home. Guys, we talk about water pressure. We talk about the water column up to 1 meter 20. And that requires special screws, M10, M12, M16, M20, depending on the height and depending on the situation. I did not mention that at the beginning, whether you have a lateral flow of water or a frontal straight impact of water. Then, of course, you have to add kinetic energy to the hydrostatic pressure. So these two things are important. But let's just stay with the screws. I always call them junior screws, these tiny M6 things. I always laughing when I drill at home and there's an M6 dowel. For me, it's like a toy. But for to hang a picture at the wall, it's enough. But not to install flood barrier systems at your building, because you want to protect your investment, and at home you want to protect your furniture, your belongings, your inventory. So that is what you need to do, and then consider the additional installation work, because you must drill to the ground, and once again the depth of the foundation must be thick enough. If not, you have to cut the concrete, dig a hole, put in concrete, fresh concrete. At this moment you can already install an anchor plate if you like, but later you have to drill into the fresh concrete again. And one more thing, did you consider how to go inside and how to escape? If you install these flood barriers from the inner side, you have to tighten the compression clamps at the left side and right side, and you do that from the inner side. How do you escape from this room? There is no second exit. You need a ladder, then you can climb over the 1 meter 20 flood barriers, or you train a monkey. I mean, in cinema, Planet of the Apes is very popular right now, and that a monkey can do. There's no problem. But normally we are not monkeys, and we don't like climbing. And when it comes to safety, the safety of buildings, and especially for business and for the government, you must consider that it is not allowed. And imagine you have a protection height of 1 meter 80. That is almost impossible. It's impossible, because the normal opening width is 2 meters. So you have 20 centimeters to get in and get out. Impossible. Get out is impossible. So you must install it from outside. You must install the flood barriers from outside flat to the wall. Then you cannot operate your doors anymore, your swinging doors anymore. That means you have to re-engineer the whole entrance. That's no problem, but you have to consider additional costs, and these costs can be higher than the whole price for the flood barriers. Okay, so learn, always consider the price of technical inspection, construction work, and the RS preliminary structural audit, how we call it, before asking for installation or supervision. And let me end with this statement. I always say 95% of the buildings can be flood protected, but you must do it right. Right? Then stay safe and flood free. I wish and hope for you that you make the right decisions when it comes to your personal flood protection. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast channel if you haven't already. Now it only remains for me to wish you a good day. Do something with it. Maybe until the next podcast episode. I would be very happy. See you then. As always, stay safe and flood free. Your Andreas Klippe and the whole Flood Experts team.
That's it again with the new episode of Flood Protection Secrets, the podcast by Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe, German engineer, book author, and head of the Flood Experts. What can Dr. Flood, Andreas Klippe protect for you? Anytime? Worldwide? Contact us or just click through to www.floodexperts.de/bonus. Detailed engineering, German quality, safe. Flood protection secrets. The secrets you'll want to unfold.
Don't forget, you're only one flood barrier away.
Subscribe to the season, and you'll never be late for an episode.